So let's go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone to real estate investment class. My name is Frantz Derenoncourt Jr. I'm a real estate specialist out in the DMV area. For those that know the DMV, that's DC, Maryland, Virginia. So I'm in that locale. I've been doing real estate for the past 20 years in this area. Real estate has been really good to me. I've done a lot. I've done investments. I've done flips. I have a property management company and just real estate agent stuff, helping people buy, helping people sell, helping people invest. Like the hat says, buy, sell, invest. So I've been doing that for the last 20 years, and it's been great. I've seen all different types of markets. I've seen ups, I've seen downs, I've seen up again, I've seen down again. So it puts me in a situation where I could help others, kind of like guide them in whatever it is that they're really trying to do real estate wise, as far as if it's their first time home buyer, or if they're trying to sell their house, or they're looking to invest. I've seen it all for the most part. So I'm just here to offer some of my experience to those who may be interested in investing in real estate. We put together a little webinar, slideshow presentation for y'all. Just to give you, this is like really the basics. This is not anything intricate, too detailed. This is for pretty much rookies who haven't really delved into real estate investing yet, or maybe has one or two properties. There's always something to learn, even if you are a seasoned real estate professional. But this is just a quick real estate class to give you guys some of the basics of investing in real estate. And I didn't want to do this on my own, so I've been on Facebook lately, and there's a good friend of mine from some years back. We were in a business together. We were business partners. He came in, and I just remember him being hungry, like ready, like wanting to learn, and very coachable, always at the meetings, always asking questions, always excited to be there. And he always left an impression on me. He was always good dude to talk to and everything, always asking advice with tips and stuff. And then but this was years ago. Now, this guy, he is killing the game. He's a entrepreneur. He delves in a lot of different things: real estate, credit repair, stocks, all different types of things. And that's my co-host for today. That's Aaron Clarke. So Aaron Clarke, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
All right. So just to keep everything short and simple, everything Frantz said is correct. We did do a previous business together, and believe it or not, I was only 20 years old at the time. I'm 28 now. Wow. So this was something I've been wanting to do since I was wet behind the ears. I mean, I'm still young, but just seeing myself from then compared to now, I feel like I lived a whole lifetime. However, I'm just getting started. Even though I closed deals, I bought multiple properties. I did everything from renting rooms to house hacking, where I live in one part of the house, rent out the other side, cash out refis, buy and holds. That's what I feel like the best way to build long-term wealth. That's why I never really got into flipping. With the credit repair, believe it or not, I started my credit repair business to get the money to get into real estate. I tell people my whole end goal was to get into real estate. Credit repair was just going to be a stepping stone, but I just so happened to just be good at what I do, and it just took off. But my goal was so small when I first started. When I started my credit repair business, I was probably about 24, and I pretty much said, if I can make an extra $600 a month, just an extra $600 a month, and save that for 12 months, that was going to equate over the course of like 3 years. I was going to have about $20,000 saved up, and I was going to use that as a down payment for my first property because I didn't have a lot of the knowledge I had now. And then as I read more books, watched more webinars, as I associated myself with more people who've been in the game for 20 years, I was taking knowledge that it took them 20 years to learn and consolidating it into completing the deal in 6 months. So guys, take both of our experience from old school to new school, because it's something that you can get from everyone. And don't overwhelm yourself, because at one point, this was Chinese to me. Like when I used to hear you and Pac talk about real estate and all that, I'm like, I don't know what they're saying, but it sounds cool. Like you ever like hear someone speaking or you speak French kind of. So you ever hear someone speak French and it sounds real cool, but you don't have no idea what they're saying? That's exactly how real estate sounded to me. Like I heard big numbers and stuff like that, but I really didn't understand what was going on. But then when I just kept practicing, how do people that know French learn English? Being around it all the time, practicing. Now it's not French to me. Now it's everyday language. So I'm ready to feed into everyone that's watching this and give them value, bro.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Fantastic. Yep. I mean, you said it best. Like real estate is one of those things real estate investing is one of those things. I mean, you could kind of like get some tips from a book or something like that, or kind of learn some things, but it's one of those things where you just have to dive in. But there's a few tips. And like you said, Aaron and I have some real estate experience that we're going to share with you guys today so that you guys are not completely don't know what you're about to get yourselves into. And that's the whole idea for doing this real estate investment class. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so why invest in real estate? A lot of people have different goals for themselves, right? And I encourage everyone to set goals for yourself, right? You don't want to just go throughout life. It's like, okay, let me try this, let me try that. You want to have a plan for yourself. And if you're investing in real estate, you want to have a plan like, okay, this is what I want to accomplish. It's not one of those things you want to jump in and then see where the real estate, industry takes you. You want to have a plan, and then so you could be on the same direction all the time. So there's a lot of different reasons why people want to invest in real estate. Passive income, like Aaron mentioned, buy and hold rental properties, large profit margins. So we're going to go over flips a little bit. But I'm like Aaron, I'm not a big flip guy. I'm a more buy and hold guy. Retirement, right? A lot of people who own plenty of properties, they don't have to worry about Social Security or retirement checks and stuff like that when they have rental income coming in. Also financial security. Real estate is not going anywhere, right? Real estate has been here hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and it's going to be here hundreds and hundreds years from now. So there's definitely security in that, and builds wealth. I mean, I don't know if there's too many top 1% income earners that have done it without real estate, right? Real estate is one of the foundations of wealth building. And also it's generational, right? So you purchase 10 real estate properties, and guess what? If something happens to you and unfortunately you're not here anymore, you can have that set up for your kids or your wife or whoever you want to have it set up for, nephews, whoever it may be. You could take your portfolio and pass it on to the next generation so that they're able to benefit off of your hard work, right? So let's go into the first slide. Okay, yeah, so real estate investing. So I kind of broke this down into 10 steps, right? I want to try to keep it as simple as possible so that we could all be on the same page. I don't want to be jumping around from one thing to another. So I just kind of put 10 different things that you guys should remember when you're about to invest in real estate, right? So you have the different investment types, right? You have credit, financing, research, property hunting, making an offer, contractors, renovation, tenants, and management. So we're gonna go through each of those 10 steps in a little bit of detail. I'm gonna talk a little bit about it. Aaron's gonna talk a little bit about it, and then we'll see what we come up with. All right, so first, investment types. There's a few different investment types that I have experience in that I could offer some good guidance on. And one is single unit rentals. So a single unit rental is pretty much a single family home, right? Like a regular house, condo, townhouse, whatever, something where one family can live, trailer, a trailer, something like that. And then you purchase that single family unit, and then you have one tenant that lives in that unit, and that tenant pays you rent, right, on one unit. And then you have multi-units. So multi-units is anything more than one unit. So you can have 2, 3, 4, 20, 100, 200, just anything more than one unit is a multi-unit. Those are my favorite real estate investments. The reason why I like multi-unit investments is because you don't have to depend on just one tenant to pay your rent. And if anything happens with that tenant, then that stops your whole income from that property. Right? But if you had a multi-unit property, then let's say you have 3 rental property, a 3-unit rental, something happens to one tenant, then you still have 2 other tenants that's paying that rent, right? So you have that nice little buffer. Even if you had 2 problems with tenants or 2 vacancy, at least you still have 1 tenant paying in rental income on a monthly basis. So that's why I like multi-unit. It's a little bit of a buffer. It's a little bit more safe than single units. And also you have commercial. So commercial is like a unit where you have a business reside. So for instance, I have a 5-unit out in Baltimore where it's 4 residential units and 1 storefront commercial unit. So that's cool because with commercial, you can have longer term leases. You can have like a 5-year lease, 6-year, 7-year lease. I've even seen 10-year leases, 20-year leases I've seen before. So that gives a little bit of stability once you have that rental. It doesn't turn over every year with the new lease. And then you have property flips. So property flip is you purchase a property with the intention of adding value to it, like fixing it up, and then also and then turning around and selling it for a higher value. So you purchase property for $200,000, you add about $50,000 of value into it, and then you turn it around and you sell it for, let's say, $400,000, and then you have a net return of income of about $100,000 or so. I didn't remember those numbers that I just said. But go ahead, Aaron. You could chime in on this slide right here.
All right. So with single unit properties, here's the pros and cons, in my opinion, about single unit versus multi-unit. Single units are good for flips. Single units are good for getting comps. So for example, right, there's always going to be more single unit houses selling than multi-unit. So it's easier to get a comp. So for example, let's say I bought a property here and I do a half a mile radius search to be like, okay, well, 3 houses like this sold in similar conditions for this price, versus a multi-unit property. The next multi-unit that sold might be 3-4 miles away, and it might look a lot different. So I have had challenges. I'm not going to say issues. I'm going to say I had challenges with getting accurate comps from my multi-units. However, like you said, I had situations where someone moved in, was paying me good for 2 months, then stopped paying me. And then when they stopped paying me, then I stopped making money off that property. And that's what started pushing me into renting rooms in certain areas. So that's a way you could have a single unit and still get multi-unit type of rental income by renting rooms. In Philadelphia, I'm not sure how it is in other counties, and because different counties have different rules and stuff like that. But in Philadelphia, everything up to 3 people, you don't need a lease. You don't need a lease for it. And I was doing them like weekly, but the problem with that is people who rent rooms, think about the type of people who rent rooms, especially in bad neighborhoods. They're usually people who are down on their last, aren't really doing too well. So then you want to deal with the drama that goes on with that. So, because people ask me about that all the time about renting rooms. And I say, look, it's nice cash flow way of making money, but do you have the grit to deal with what comes with renting rooms? Well, multi-units, here's another thing, right? When you get your roof fixed on your multi-unit, you're getting your roof fixed for 2 or 3 units versus you have 3 houses and all their roofs need to be fixed. That's triple the cost. So a lot of times when I went my multi-unit properties, I would fix one thing that would take care of it for the whole building. So I save money that way. As far as commercial, what I learned about commercial is that the leases aren't enforced the same way as residential leases. So for example, right, if someone doesn't pay their rent at your commercial property where I live at, they can just come put the lock on your door. Ain't nothing you can do.
That's right.
You can put someone in the lease for 5 years, 7 years, a triple net lease where they're responsible even for the taxes.
Yep.
And you're not responsible. Like, I think commercial is like robbery. Like, you can literally buy a property, tell the business owner you have to rehab everything, pay for all the taxes, pay this, pay that. And the minute you don't pay, I'm putting locks on the doors and I'm putting someone else in there. Because commercial real estate is more of a business contract than a residential versus tenant contract from what I've done and what I've got out of it. And property flips, I mean, you got to deal with the capital gains tax. You got to deal with paying the realtor fees and stuff like that. So when it comes to property flips, it just has to make stupid sense. Like, stupid sense. Like, you got to give me a number I just can't refuse.
That's right.
What I'm going to do is, bro, I'm going to look at what I'm anticipated to make over the course of 20 years. And if the profit I'm going to make off of that flip is going to be almost or equate to more than that 20 years what I'm going to make over the rents, then you can have it.
Absolutely.
But most people, they don't have a plan. They just, I'm just going to buy it and rent it out. They don't think like, okay, if rents go up 5% a year on average, and this neighborhood is up and coming, so my rents are probably going to be this in 10 years. But with inflation is going to bring that down about 3-4%. See, I figure all that out to know if a flip will make sense for me versus just renting it out, because rents always go up.
Yep. So absolutely.
Yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, and property flips, like, you have to have a really wide margin for a flip, because all like every property flip project, which is one of the reasons why I kind of stay away from them. Every project that I've had always goes over budget, and then even if, like, I remember my very first property flip, I was so excited to try to do it. This is probably like 18 years ago. I was so excited to I was like, this is my first flip. So the margins were very, very small. I think I was probably going to make like maybe $15,000. The first week of construction, we hit like $5,000 over for this, another $1,000 for that, another $2,000 for this. And then I was way over budget, and I had to sell, and the property didn't sell like when I thought it was going to sell. So I had to hold on to it for longer than what I wanted to. And then I sold it for less than I wanted to. So it was an all around bad experience, but that was just my experience. And that's what led me to more having rental units, multi-units. It's less risky, and the monthly cash flow is always works out in my favor. So
can I just chime on what you said? You said how you had to lower, how much you made, and it just it was a bad experience. It's another thing I tell people. Your first 2-3 real estate deals is not going to be money that's made in the bank. It's going to be money made in the experience.
That's right. Absolutely.
Like, I tell people, your first 2-3 properties is get it out of your mind that you're not going to get rich off of them. You're not going to make all this money because you're going to mess up. You're going to either hire the wrong contractor. You're going to L&I might come hit you with a fine. Like something is going to happen. But I'd rather you be prepared for it than to just go into this because most of the time when you're an investor, the people on the other side, if they know you're a rookie, they're going to take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like when you buy your first car or you buy your first piece of jewelry, you're going to get burned because you don't know any better.
Yeah, the first time you do anything, right? It's the first time. So you're a rookie, you never done it before. So, but absolutely, you're right. The experience was worth way more than the money that I got out of that deal. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go on to the next one. All right, this is Aaron's thing right here, credit. So first thing I wanted to say this actually before we got started, right? This is not any type of real estate hack, like get rich quick type of seminar that we're doing right now. Like you could start investing in real estate with no credit and no cash and stuff like that. I've never had that experience ever. Right? Not to say that anyone else has ever had it, right. But I know when I had bad credit, I couldn't buy any type of real estate, right? So credit is absolutely important. I've never met anyone, well, I can't say I've never met anyone that hasn't purchased a property with bad credit or investment property with bad credit or with no money. but I know for the past 20 years, probably like one or two different types of situations where somebody like really got lucky and did something. But real estate is a grind, right? And if you don't have the cash aside to purchase a property in whole, like a cash deal, then you're gonna need a loan. And the best loans are reserved for the people with the best credit, period, right? So if your credit is kind of subpar, then you'll find a bank that'll give you a loan. However, it's going to be the highest interest rate and it's going to mess up your cash flow. So the higher your credit, the better, right? You want to be, ideally, you want to be in that 700 credit score range. And then if you're over that 720 mark, then you're pretty much golden. You'll be able to apply and receive the lowest interest rates that's available. And what interest rates does, it affects the payment. So if you have a high interest rate, let's say you take out a $300,000 mortgage with a 5.5% interest rate, then you're going to be paying a lot higher monthly payments servicing that loan than if you had better credit and you qualified for a 3% interest rate, right? So, I mean, the difference in payment is probably like $300-400 monthly, maybe even more than that. So if you're thinking about putting a tenant in your property, let's say, your credit was shaky, you still got the loan, you got like a 5.5-6% interest rate on that loan. Now your payments are $1,500 a month, and now you have this property that you could rent out for $1,500 a month. So now you're breaking even. But if you were to if your credit was better, you got that lower interest rate. Now your payments are $1,100 a month, and you can rent that out for $1,500 a month. Then now you have some cash flow to work with, right? You have a $400 margin, which is not bad, but it's better than breaking even every month, because there's no such thing as break even because you have to worry about repairs. You have to worry about a lot of different things, tenant maintenance and stuff like that, that could easily throw off your monthly cash flow. So, but I know Aaron is the credit guy, so I'm gonna let him step in and let him tell you how important your credit is.
All right, so before I even start, I just want to let you guys know I'm qualified to do this. All right, gotta pull up the stamp. So just gotta show you guys that real quick.
Nice.
I'm proud of this. I show this to everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Put down your T-shirt.
Listen, when you met me, when I knew you, my credit. Listen, I put so much Montevita and High Five challenges on my credit, my stuff got destroyed. Like, seriously, I was floating bills on credit, trying to make investments in credit. But here was the problem with me in credit, right? See, a lot of people are like, well, I'd rather have an 800 credit score because it's more powerful to get in 100 grand. The question is, do you even know what to do with 100 grand if you get it? Because here's the thing, credit is still borrowed money. Yes, credit is more powerful than money because you get more leverage, right? However, you still have to pay it back. And sometimes it even comes with interest rates. So I tell people the reason I buy houses a little bit differently is because when I buy a house under a regular mortgage, right? The way mortgages are set up, they're set up so most of the money you pay in the beginning is going towards the interest and only a small percentage of it is going towards principal. Versus I might grab a house on a credit card, which I do all the time. Once you get to a 720, 730 credit score, American Express will give you $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 limits. Navy Federal, PenFed, these banks will give you those limits. And guys, I'm actually going to make a video on the banks that I go to get those high limits. So I'm gonna send that to Frantz. You can share with everyone if you don't follow me. So pretty much, this is my strategy with it. This is what I advise everybody to do. Yes, you can buy properties without credit. I actually just did a deal without credit. I actually did a seller's financing deal. That's probably like the only type of deal besides wholesaling where you can buy a house without credit. However, that's when your negotiation skills have to be strong. But that's for another slide. So let's get back to the credit part, right? So here's are the 5 factors of your credit score. The number one factor is your payment history. Your payment history, right, is 35% of your score. So that means that even one late payment, because it doesn't matter if you forgot and you really had the money, it doesn't matter. Once you go past 29 days past due, to the credit bureaus, you're late. And when you're that late, you can lose anywhere between 50 to 150 points just off of one late payment. The higher your score is, the more stuff like that will hurt you. So at an 800, if I was to have one late payment, I would drop to a 650 instantly. However, if I was at a 600 and I had a late payment, I might drop to a 580. So the higher you go, the more you have to lose. So what I advise people to do, if you consistently do have the money to pay your bills, set up automatic payments, but still have 1 day a month where you're accountable and you double check and you make sure all the automatic payments are going through. I've had situations where I lost debit cards and forgot to call companies and update them, and it slipped my mind because we're adults and we all had 30, 40 different bills. And that one bill that I forgot went into collections and almost hit my credit, right? So guys, I know it's tedious. I know you feel like you don't have to do it because you can remember everything and you don't gotta. That is not the habit of someone that's in the 800 club. That's a habit of someone that's trying to get there, but they're not there. Credit utilization. Credit utilization is just as important because it's 30% of your credit score. So pretty much, right, when people get credit cards and they go over 30% of their limit, it drops your score drastically. And people are like, well, why do they give me $10,000 if they don't want me to use it all? Because they're trying to determine what your risk factor is. Plus, the more of that card that you use, the more they can hit you for it. So check this out. Let me tell you the science behind it. If you use more of the card, your score goes down. Your score goes down, they can hit you with higher interest rates. That's why they give you a higher limit than you really want to use, because it's kind of like, it's like a booby trap. It's like, okay, we're going to tease you with this $10,000 because we want you to use it. And you're probably not going to pay it all off the first month. So now we get to tag you with all this interest. And now that your credit usage is so high on your credit, we can now change your interest rate. Because that's another thing, guys. Credit cards can change your interest rate at any given time. It's not like a mortgage where you're locked into an interest rate. Credit cards, they can change it anytime they want. So they want you to max out your cards so they can drop your score, so they can hit you a higher interest rate, so they can make more money. Banks make money off of interest. That's how they make money, making money off of interest and loaning money out. The third factor, let me go back to usage. So the way to combat that usage trap, figure out what the billing close date is. Don't focus too much on the due date. The billing close date is what actually gets reported to the credit bureaus. For example, if your due date is on the 10th, but your billing close date is on the 1st, whatever your balance is on the 1st is what's going to hit your credit report. The 10th, your due date for the payment is just the time frame you have before you're considered late. But what actually hit the credit bureaus is your billing close date. So I always try to pay off my balances 2 to 3 days before the billing close date, just so the system has enough time for the payment to get through and for it to update, stuff like that. If you don't know what your billing close date is, just look at your statement or just call your bank. And what I would do is I would have them all written down. I would have it all written down just so you won't forget, because you might run into a situation, because we're human. I'm not going to lie. I had to max out credit cards before. Stuff happens. Especially in real estate. In real estate, you will max out your credit card at least once or twice. I'm not trying to hear it. It will happen. It will, especially when you're going over budget or it's just something that has to be fixed now. Like, for example, if it's summertime and the AC goes out and the AC is in that lease, you got to get it fixed now. It's not, let me wait for my job to pay me. Let me figure this out. No, it has to get done now.
If your tenant's not trying to hear that.
Exactly. You're not trying to hear you don't got the money and stuff like that. That's why even while you have the properties, you need credit to be a little floater if stuff goes to go wrong. Or let's say the water heater goes. Or let's say it's in the middle of the winter time and the heat goes. These are expenses that could be $5,000, $10,000 that you just cannot wait to get fixed. So what you do is, right, you max it out, you run it up, do whatever you got to do. But if you can figure out a way just to have the balance paid before the billing close date, literally a day after the billing close date, you can max it right back up and it will never hit your credit report. That's they call that floating. They call it floating.
Right.
You ever heard of floating payments, when people issue a payment before the money's actually in their account because they know it's going to take 2 to 3 business days for it to fully come out?
Yep.
That's called the floating strategy. And I really, really do not advise that unless you're just, your back is against the wall and you're like, Aaron, I had to max it out. Cool. Now, if you could just borrow the money from somebody for just 2 days to pay that down, you can run it right back up and it still won't hit your credit. Why? Because I've been there before. So the third factor of your credit report is your credit age. Now, this is really confusing for a lot of people, so I'm going to simplify it. The older your credit is, the better. If people are adding you on to authorized user accounts that have old credit card timeframes, for example, my grandma had her Macy's and Capital One card for 10 plus years. So when she added me as an authorized users, I got those 10 years added to my credit as my average credit age. Versus you go out there and you just go apply for all these new credit cards. Now your credit is 3 months old, 6 months old, a year old, which can hurt you. Having new credit can hurt you because they don't really see a track record of what you can do. So that's why I tell people, talk to your grandparents, your aunts, people that you know are good with finances and take care of their credit. They won't max it out or have late payments. Ask them to add you as an authorized user to their credit card so you get that little speed boost. Now, you might not have any family that have good credit. I had people tell me that. Guess what? If you guys on social media, why aren't you networking? Why aren't you networking with people who do have great credit and providing them with something of value so they can give you something that you want? You see, everything will always cost money, but everything always costs value. Whenever you want value, you have to give value some type of way. So that's a little hack right there for getting your credit age up. You want to try to have a credit age of 5 years average. That's good. If you have a 5-year or more credit average, that's good. I'm going to sum up the last two. The last two factors of your credit score, these are both 10%, is your credit mix, right? And your credit inquiries. So credit mix, right? The credit bureaus like seeing a mix of loans and revolving lines of credit, which is credit cards on your credit report. For example, you can have 1 car note, 3 credit cards, a mortgage or car loan, 2 credit cards. They just like seeing variety in your credit because it tells them you can handle different types of debt. And when they see you can handle different types of debt, they're more prone to give you more money at a lower interest rate. And then the inquiries, right? I get hit with this a lot. Aaron, I got all these inquiries. Inquiries only stay on your credit for 2 years, and they stop affecting your credit score after 1 year. So I'll say that again. It falls off at the 2 years, it stopped affecting your credit score at the 1 year. Now, I tell people, right, there are some banks that once they run your credit once, they don't have to keep running it again to get you an answer. For example, American Express. Once you get approved for an account with them, whenever you go apply for another Amex account, they will never check your credit again. They're just going to go off of your payment history with them and how often you max it out, your spending habits, stuff like that. But then you got some places like, I don't know, you might go to the car dealership and they might run your credit through like 10, 15 different banks. That's only bad if they're sporadically doing it over the course of like 2-3 weeks. But if you get all your inquiries within a 5 business day period, the credit bureaus look at it as you shopping for rates and they don't hit you as hard. So for example, if you was to just go randomly, all right, go get 5 inquiries this week, 10 inquiries next week, 5 next month, that will hurt you a lot more than if you got them all done within 5 days of each other. So if you are going to go run your credit, get inquiries, try to do it all within the same week, because then there's a lesser chance of it dropping your score as much. Yeah, I think I pretty much hit on all the main things.
That was awesome, man. Great tips. Same thing with the example you made with the car shopping for car interest rates. The same thing with mortgages, right? If the credit bureaus see that you have a lot of inquiries with mortgage companies, then it won't hit you if you have like multiple inquiries shopping for an interest rate with a mortgage company, with multiple mortgage companies. So definitely shop around for the best rates. And try not to just stick to one. I mean, that's why they encourage you, and that's why the credit bureaus set it up that way so that you can shop around for interest rates without it affecting your credit score. So awesome, man. That's why they call him the credit mechanic, So hopefully you guys got some tips from that, because I sure did. And also another thing, I set up all of my credit cards, just like Aaron said. I set up all my credit cards on automatic payments for just the lowest amount, the
Minimum.
minimum payment, right? But I also could go back there and then like add more money into it if I have to. But just in case I do forget, then at least the minimum payment is taken care of. So awesome. So get that credit up, family. Okay, so financing. So financing, there are a lot of different ways people finance their investments. Bank loans, that's usually the ones. I have a partnership group where we do buy certain properties cash together as a group. But most of the time, if I'm just doing something myself, I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash laying around to go purchase properties, just cash. So I do use bank loans, right? So one thing you have to understand, I mean, this falls in line with credit. So if you go to a mortgage company and you say, okay, I'm looking to invest in a property, I need a loan. So investment loans are not the same as you purchasing your house, right? Because the bank understands that, okay, if you're purchasing this property for investment purposes, that means that you're not going to be living in there, right? More than likely. So there's higher risk involved. That means you can really, if things go south, you could pretty much walk away from that property because that's not your primary residence. So banks understand that, so they want you to put a higher down payment when they know that it's for an investment property. So I've seen down payments, usually the smallest down payment I've seen is probably like 5%, but really 20, 25%, depending on the property that you want to purchase, is what the banks are looking for. And also, I would encourage you to put down a larger percent on an investment property, only because, especially if it's a rental unit, because at 20%, the banks don't charge you PMI, which is private mortgage insurance, which is sort of like an extra percentage, like an extra maybe $200, $300, $400, depending on the amount of the loan, that the bank charges you monthly in order to secure your loan. So, but they don't charge you that PMI if your property loan to value is 80%. So that means you put 20% down in the beginning. And trust me, that comes in handy. And also, the reason I enjoy putting down a larger percent on properties, or I just make it a practice to do it that way, is because I don't want to be so close to my principal amount to my market value, because if anything kind of goes wrong and I have to get rid of that property or something happens, then I'm gonna have to come out of my pocket to sell that property if something goes off. So if I purchased a property for $300,000, I found a 0% down payment. So now my loan is probably going to be $300,000. The property's worth $300,000. Something goes wrong, I have to get rid of that property. Then I have to pay closing costs. I have to pay sales commissions, which is probably like another 6% total over the amount that I purchased the property at. So it kind of puts me underwater. So if I had that money up front to put into that investment property, then I have like a little breathing room to work with. Also cash, so that's down payment. But of course, if you're doing the bank loan, that goes back to credit. You have to make sure that your credit is high enough so that you get the best loan terms and interest rates. And even if you have good credit, also that could determine your down payment as well, right? So also when you're dealing with financing, you have, let's see, I try to stay away, like, I know you guys heard of adjustable rate mortgages, something like that, where they give you an introductory kind of like teaser rate, which is like really low, like maybe like 2.5% to 3%, but it's an adjustable rate. So that means that the interest rate is going to adjust, depending on which type of product you chose, like in 5 years, 7 years, or 10 years, to the market rate. So you'll have a nice low payment, in the first couple of years of owning that property. But once that adjustable rate mortgage hits, then it shoots up 4, 5, 6% sometimes. That's pretty much what happened back in 2008 with the real estate market crashed. Everybody, those adjustable rate mortgages are usually set aside for investors, because what the bank is thinking is like, okay, they're gonna take this property, they're gonna flip it, they're gonna get rid of it in less than 5 years, so we could give them that low interest rate. But what happened, regular homeowners started getting these loan products, adjustable rate mortgages, and then thinking that they're gonna be in that home for like maybe 5 years, and then they'll be able to refinance out of it. But what happened, they weren't able to refinance, their credit got bad, or the property did not appreciate to the point where they could refinance, and they were stuck in that loan. And then the rate adjusted this is back in 2008, from like maybe 5% to like 10%, 11% interest, and people could not afford the payments, and they walked away from their properties and they defaulted on their loans. And that happened all across the country. So you have to make sure, especially when you're buying a rental property, just try to go with a 30-year fixed, right? That's the safest way to go. You know what your payments are gonna be month to month, and so that once you're collecting your rental income, you can service that loan and whatever is left over you got. So hard money loans. So hard money loans, I try to stay away from those, but I put it on here just to let you know that that is an option for some people. Hard money loans are usually like, it's not really a paper bank loan. Hard money is usually like investors who pool money together, and then they give high interest rates to people who are looking to invest in real estate. And most of the time they have a part in that real estate deal with you, right? So it's like, okay, your credit is bad, or you don't have enough money, whatever the case may be, you could go to a hard money lender and say, you show them the property, you show them like, look, this is how much the property is now, this is how much it's gonna be after it's repaired, there's a lot of profit margin in here. So the hard money lender would be like, okay, we're gonna give you this loan, and it's gonna be like 10% interest, right? But the whole idea is that you're going to repair the property, and then you're going to flip it, or you're gonna repair the property and you're going to refinance it once it's repaired, renovated, so that now you have a new market value that when you refinance, you'll have some equity in it. But 50% of the time, maybe even more than that, it doesn't happen that way, especially when you're new in real estate. In fact, I don't even think you can get a hard money loan on your first couple of deals. You have to be a seasoned real estate investor. But I just put that in there so you guys can kind of know about it. And then also, a lot of people talk to me about investment clubs. Like, they have a couple of buddies, they want to invest in real estate. They figure they put their money together and, let's go buy a property together. I encourage that 100%, but I don't like the fact some people have like 10, 15 people in their clubs. I think the smaller, the better. And the only reason is because the multiple personalities, right, that have to kind of like be on the same page when you're picking a property, when you're renovating a property, when you're selling the property. There's so many different decisions that need to be made that if you have 15 plus people in a group, that it could really delay, because not everybody is going to be on the same page. I'll tell you that much, right? So I like small investment clubs, like maybe 5, maybe up to 10, but even 10 to me is a little bit high. But it all depends on the people that you have in your club. But I think it's great, you guys get together, form an LLC, form some type of corporation, and start investing in properties. I think that's awesome. So go ahead, Aaron.
All right. So I tell people, and this is people who have credit issues, right? Don't think you're just getting all this knowledge and you can't do anything with it, because you might have somebody in your network or someone you haven't met yet that qualifies for everything we just mentioned, but might not have the knowledge that you have. So when he mentioned that having partners in investment clubs, I actually want to start with that because, Franz, that's actually the number one excuse that I get. Oh, well, I don't have money to make a down payment, or I don't have good credit. What can I do right now? Okay, can you find someone that does? Well, where do I find them at? You got Facebook, you got LinkedIn, you got Twitter. They're out there. Trust me, they're out there. If you come to me with a deal that makes sense and you offer me a nice piece of the pie and you're going to do all the work, hell yeah. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, what it is, bro, a lot of times people don't want to spend the time prepping the deal. So when they present it to people that they will want to jump into it, that's why they feel like it's harder than what it really is. Because I'm not going to just give my money or give my credit for someone to use that don't know what they're doing. But if you come to me with a slam dunk, I'm going to take advantage of that all day. So when it comes to the investment clubs, guys, definitely network. Probably the reason why you don't have any real estate right now, because you're hanging out with people who don't buy real estate. So let's start by changing that. Hang out with people who buy real estate. Realtors, property managers, contractors, these are all people in those lanes. And I call this the 6 degrees of separation. You're 6 connections away from anyone in the world. So you might not know anyone directly, but the contractor definitely knows investors. The realtor definitely knows investors. So that's a way, if you can't qualify for none of these things, you don't got a down payment, you can't get a loan, network and use your knowledge as leverage to find someone who has the good credit, has the money, but might not have the time. Because people with money might not always have time and they value it. So when you bring that value of giving them their time back, there you go. You have a partner. Hard money loans. Here's the thing with those. Yes, if you have bad credit, you can't qualify for them. But here's the catch. They like to see reserves. They like to see you with at least like 20, 30% of what you're trying to borrow in the bank. Even though you're not going to use it, even though it makes their investors feel more comfortable. Because all hard money is a group of investors. So when they see someone, they have $30,000 in reserve, so that means they can float the draw payments as we giving them to them. Draw payments are the scheduled payments that the hard money lender gives to you. They don't just give you all the money up front. They might give you the money to acquire the property, but then when the rehab starts, they give it to you in draws as work gets completed. But that's a whole nother conversation right there. So with the hard money, they care more about the deal being good than your credit. However, you will have to put down anywhere between 20 to 30%. You will have to float payments as you're waiting for the draw, which is why some people, Franz, they become their own general contractor, so they don't have to wait on another contractor to submit, everything they need to get the next draw. What's the next thing I don't like about hard money loans? It's just, and then you're not dealing with a real bank. So those contracts for hard monies be really long, and there's a lot of contingencies in it.
High interest rates.
Exactly. They're not going to take a loss, period. They're not going to take a loss. That's why they want you to put so much money down, because if they have to take that property away from you, they're walking in with equity, plus whatever work you already did. So that's why it's like a win-win for them. So that's why I can see why you don't like hard money and why I try to stay away from it. I used it once, and I don't want to use it ever again. Because that's another thing is, if something goes wrong on your deal and it takes longer, now you're in even a deeper mud, because that hard money loan only might be good for 12 months. Then after the 12 months, they might call the loan and say you got to pay everything right now.
Yeah.
Every hard money lender is different, but those are the pros and the cons. So I wouldn't even go after hard money unless the deal made 100,000% sense and I had the reserves to be able to float payments on that deal. Being a cash buyer, see, I already have a business that kind of like supports me and help me be able to be a cash buyer, but that kind of ties back into the investment club. If you're someone that don't have $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 cash laying around, find someone that does, build a relationship with them, and you use their money like it's your money. As long as they're getting a nice chunk out of the deal, it shouldn't matter. But here's how I'm a cash buyer even before I had money. So what I would do is, right, when my credit got good, I would go to all these credit unions or banks offering introductory interest rates. So I went to Key Bank. They was offering 0% on their line of credits for 18 months. So what I did was I pulled out all the cash under that line of credit, and I did this under a business line of credit. So you had to set up an LLC to do this. So I got the LLC. I went to Key Bank. the business bank account. I use my personal credit as a guarantor to guarantee the personal line of credit. However, they don't report the line of credit to my personal. So if I use it all up, it's not gonna like I maxed it out. So I pulled 25,000 out of there. And then what I did, I went to a wholesaler and I said, hey, I know that you're selling this property for 35, but if I have 25 for you right now, no finance, no BS, right now, would you do 25 right now? See, if I came to him with, I want to do a mortgage and hard money and all that, he would have said no. But the fact I came with cash that saved me $10,000, not to mention that the money that I borrowed is 0% interest for like 18 years. I think it was 18 months. So now I only got to make the minimum payments on that line of credit. Now I have the property. Now I can do one or two things. I can either go to the bank and say, hey, can I get a loan against this house to rehab it? Can I get a rehab loan? Or you can get private investors together to rehab the house. Or you can do what I did and go to American Express, and I used my American Express card to rehab the house. The house needed about $40,000 in rehab, but the after repair value was about $120. So I just couldn't lose on that deal. So I used one credit card to get the property at a cheaper price because they looked at it as cash. Then I used my Amex to pay for the rehabs on it. So even if you don't have the cash to be a cash buyer, when you have good credit, you could utilize 0% interest that's out there for business loans and business lines of credit to be able to take advantage of cash-only deals. Down payment, like he said, 20% keeps you from paying that PMI. And I know it might not seem like a lot when you're trying to get the house, but when you look at the 2-3 years of you paying that mortgage, you're like, wow, I could have put a down payment on another house with the money I was paying in PMI. The lowest down payment I ever seen was 3.5%, which was on an FHA, but you have to get PMI, so it always goes back up to 5% regardless. Mm-hmm. So 20% makes your mortgage payments lower. I totally agree with that, saving that 20%, because you're going into the property with equity, number one. Number two, your payments are going to be lower. And number three, you don't have to pay PMI. So that's where putting as big as a down payment as you can really helps, but just don't spend all your money. Because once you get the house, it's going to be something that happens after that. So try to have a little reserve. Don't spend it all on a down payment. And bank loans, most of the best loans that I typically see are from credit unions, like local credit unions. However, there are times where I see Bank of America, TD Bank, Wells Fargo offers some stupid, great, amazing loans. So that's why you have to always be shopping around. Always be shopping around. I go look at different forums, different boards, just to see what's going on. And one last hack, sometimes it might be worth it to get a virtual address in another state so that you can get a bank account in that state where they might have better rates. Because rates also based on your geographic too. If you're in California, a lot of times they get hit with higher rates than they would on the East Coast, vice versa. So yeah.
Awesome. Great tips. Yeah, and just another quick thing, the PMI on conventional loans goes on the loan. You have to pay that all the way up until the 80% loan to value. So that means once you have 20% equity in the property. But for FHA loans, PMI is for the life of the loan, right? So that's why once you get if you're in an FHA mortgage, once you get some equity in there, make sure you refinance out of that FHA so you don't have to pay that mortgage insurance anymore. All right, awesome. All right, so let's see what we got next. Okay, research. So research, when you investing in real estate, research, I mean, you definitely have to do your research. You can't just go say, oh, that house looks nice and put an offer on it, right? You have to make sure that it's the right neighborhood, it's the right market conditions, which means that properties are appreciating in that neighborhood, or rents are high, or rents are trending higher in that neighborhood. So you want to make sure you do as much research as possible. Even go into, as far as identifying neighborhoods, some of the best neighborhoods that I found, I live in the DC area. So DC, I mean, with the government jobs kind of like sustaining the economy around here, I mean, real estate values are always high and going up higher. Even during the recession and the real estate crash, DC wasn't really affected because people had jobs, right? The government is the largest employer out here in DC. So finding a good property to invest in DC is difficult because they're all very expensive. But what you want to do is you want to identify certain neighborhoods where they haven't really had that spike in development yet, right? So you might have, so usually my rule of thumb is if I see a hot neighborhood where properties are really high and everything on those streets, and then I might drive like maybe 5-10 minutes out from where the hot neighborhoods are and try to find a property that's in kind of like disrepair. So the rule of thumb is finding the worst house on the best block, right? So you want to find a house that needs repair. You want to find something that's kind of shaky, and then like, I always sometimes go knock on the door or leave a note or something like that in order, or get the address and send the homeowner a letter, like go onto the public records, find out who owns the house, write up a handwritten letter, send it to that property. I've done all of these different things and they've worked. Of course, I had to write a lot of letters to make sure to have one work for me. But these are the different types of research that you have to do to make sure that you're not purchasing a property that you're going to be stuck with, which actually goes back to what we first talked about with having a plan. So as the property that you're looking for, is it something that you want to try to flip, or is it something you're going to buy and hold for rental income? That's number one. That's the number one thing that you have to determine. And then once, let's say you're looking for a property where you want to use it as a rental. So the research you want to do is how much are people paying in rent for a 2-bedroom, for a 3-bedroom, for a 1-bathroom, 1.5 baths, 2 baths. So you want to do as much research as possible so that once you get in, you already have a plan of, before you even purchase the property, you know how much you're going to rent it for, how much it's going to cost you to renovate and repair, or whatever the case may be at that point. The market appreciation, that's kind of easy. That's just knowing your history of the market, of the city that you're investing in. You want to see what the market was 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, so that you see that there's some type of trend going in the direction that you're looking for, right? So if all property values are falling, then you might not want to think of a flip situation, but more of a buy and hold situation where you could purchase a property at a low amount and rent it until property values go back up again. I've done this thing in Baltimore a few times where I call it sort of like a long-term flip, where I purchase a property and I actually purchase a property with tenants in it, right? And while the tenants are inside of the property, I'll upgrade the property somehow, like maybe change windows, or maybe install an HVAC system if it was only window units, or I'll do some type of repairs over like a year or so, right? And then once that year is up, then I added value into that property and I actually sold that property with the same tenants that I purchased the property in to another investor, and I made a profit. So that's sort of like a long-term flip. But you could do things like that once you see that after doing your research that the market is trending upward. Also, another thing to do research on is future development. The city already has plans for a lot of different places in the city as far as development, right? I know there's some areas in Baltimore where, okay, they're gonna put in like either supermarkets or, government buildings or parks or stuff like that. You can actually go on the city website and pull up city plans of future development, and they'll let you know what area that they're going to focus on for development over like the next 10, 15, 20 years sometimes. And that will give you a heads up of where you can invest and what type of properties to invest in. So you always want to do your research. It's not just about going on Zillow and saying, oh, the Zestimate on this is this much and I could buy it for that much. Zillow doesn't tell the whole story. You want to have different materials where you could go, and different avenues where you could go get as much information as possible before you even go and spend your time to go look at a property. You want to identify that neighborhood. And then once you find that neighborhood that you think, you identify several neighborhoods that you want to invest in, that's when you could hop in your car and go visit properties, go inside and check things out. So what's your take, Aaron?
I'm gonna keep it simple. I don't want to take too much time. I am a big Google Map person. I love that feature in Google Map where you can literally ride along the street without having to be there. Me personally, I like buying my rentals in a hood that has high rents because that's where I'm from. Philadelphia is the hood for the most part. However, you can't get a one bedroom in Philly without paying at least like $1,000, $900. So I look for areas like that, but I also make sure that those areas are near places where people are working, hospitals, schools, colleges, casinos, stuff like that. I also make sure I understand how the public housing allowance or the Section 8 works in the area, because they'll tell me that, okay, it might be better for me to do this as a Section 8 rental, because if I just buy in this hood, this thing, I'm just going to get an easy $1,200, and I'm always going to get that every month. No, because that's why I tell people, yeah, you might buy the house for $50,000 and the rents in the area are $1,200, $1,100, but if people are never paying their rent, then you're still going to lose money regardless. So I tell people in a Section 8, I had a tenant that me and her was literally beefing every month, but the government still made sure I got my $900 every month. She was only responsible for $150. So doing that little research, knowing what you're dealing with will tell you, should I go Section 8 or should I go regular private rental? Another thing I look for, like you said, is growth. Like, for example, Harrisburg, you're building a new federal building there, and Harrisburg is like the capital of Pennsylvania. So when people catch Fed cases and stuff like that, that's where they go. And they're literally building this Fed building right on the other side of the hood. Like, literally, like, if you look on the other side of where they're building this building at, there's like drug dealers outside. You can go on Google Maps and see the drug dealers outside on these streets. Like, that crazy. However, it's being gentrified, because when I look in that area and I'm looking on, this is the only time I will look on Zillow to see how fast they're selling and how much they're selling. That's it. That's the only thing I'm going there for. I don't care what the Zestimate is and all that. I want to know what it actually sold for and what's the time frame. So if I go look and see in the last 30 days, within a mile, 15 houses were sold, that might be a good opportunity right there versus you check and a house wasn't sold in 2 months. That's not good. So those are the things I usually look for. I do driving for dollars a lot. So what I would do is kind of what you said. I'll drive around. If I see a property, worst property on the best block, that's actually how I found my last deal. I was just driving around. I see them for sale by owner. And I'm like, okay, well, this is Little Italy. So it's all Italians living here. So I know people will want to live here. And I checked the values. Everything looked good. And I just closed on that property about a month ago, and we already in the demo stage. But the reason why I bought that property, I drove around it. I talked to the neighbors in the neighborhood. This is like a straight Italian neighborhood. So, and the crime rate is very low. Everybody knows each other. All the old ladies, they raise their kids. They know everybody. I like neighborhoods like that, because now if someone breaks in my house, they're one of the first ones to call me. See, in the hood, they don't want to call nobody when something bad happens. Nobody want to be a snitch. But in other neighborhoods, all the neighbors know each other, stuff like that. Hey, Aaron, I think somebody's at your door. I don't know what's going on over there. So just doing a little research like that can tell you what you're getting into when you're buying this property.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, man, definitely knowing the neighbors is key as well. Like, you always have the hood neighborhood watch, which is like the grandmas and the aunties, right? Like, they'll let you know what time the mailman came, Amazon deliveries and all types of stuff. So definitely get to know the neighbors and the neighborhood as much as you can once you're doing your research. I even talk to some neighbors sometimes before I go into the properties, purchase a property. I'll talk to some of the neighbors, ask them how they like it living here, stuff like that. So that's if they're outside. Sometimes they're outside watering plants and stuff like that. So awesome. All right, let's see. Property hunting. Like, where do you find these properties, right? It's not easy all the time to find a good investment property, depending on where you live, right? So there's a lot of different strategies that I use. Definitely the internet, we talked about the Zillows and the Redfins and all these different places that put listings up on the internet. But that's definitely not one of the best tools to use, because usually those properties are listed in the MLS, which is a multiple listing service that real estate agents put properties into for sale. And most of the time, those are at like retail value. They're already at market value. So it's hard to kind of purchase a property that everybody knows is on the market, and you might have like multiple people competing to purchase it, which is driving the price up. So it's very hard to get a deal. Same thing with real estate agents. It's real estate agents that put the properties on the internet, right? So that's me. I'm a real estate agent. I just got a listing in DC this week, and I put it on the internet. I'm getting dozens of calls every day about it. So that property is probably going to sell more than what I listed it for because of the demand. So even dealing with, but one thing with real estate agents cultivate different relationships where I think Aaron even said, get to know real estate agents and stuff like that. Absolutely, because there are some people that we deal with that don't like to put properties on the market. They'll just ask me, it's like, hey, I'm about to put this property on the market. I'll give you like a finder's fee if you have a buyer for it. I've done stuff like that before where a for sale by owner or a contractor or a developer just finished developing a property, and maybe they don't want to go through an agent, but they do go through an agent to find buyers. So definitely real estate agents are good resources in order to find these investment properties. Then also you have auction sites. I think the auction site out here in the DMV area is called Alex Cooper. I'm not sure how far up north or west or south they go, but they have tons of properties because usually they deal straight with the banks. As soon as the bank forecloses, they want to put it on an auction. They feel like they can get, if people start bidding on their properties, then they'll put it with a auction dealer, and the auction will try to get as much for the property as possible. You have like a lot of these online bidding sites, but I really don't like those either, because I feel I'm a conspiracy theorist by nature, and I always feel like the auctioneer, I'm bidding against the actual auctioneer, right? I'm not bidding against other people just to drive the price up. And then also with bidding on properties, I try not to do that either, because it can get very emotional. Like, you don't want to lose, especially if you're competitive. You're bidding like, you set your cap that, okay, I'm only going to spend $150,000 on this property. But next thing you know, every time you go up, somebody else goes up 1,000. You go up, they go up 1,000. Now you emotionally invested in trying to get this property just because somebody is trying to get it and you don't want them to get it. Right, so that's kind of like how they suck you in emotionally. And with real estate, you have to have zero emotions. It has to be all about the numbers, right? You can't be like, you know what? Oh, this property is perfect. This looks good. It's in a great neighborhood, this and that. Remember, it's all about the numbers. It's not about how you feel about the property, because you can purchase that property and you feel great about it, but it's not bringing you the rental income you wanted. And then also it has the potential to go way over budget if you're trying to flip it, only because you got emotionally involved with that property. So auction sites are good sometimes. I've purchased properties on auctions, on like the courthouse steps and stuff like that. So, but it depends. You have to go to a lot of different auctions in order to find the right deal. And that's going to be, if you're investing in real estate, that's going to be the common thread, right? It's going to be spending a lot of time trying to find that right property. Okay, so you're going to be writing a lot of offers. You're going to be looking at a lot of different properties until you find that right one. Very rare. Probably, I don't even think it's happened with me, where the first property that I went to see, I was able to get. I probably, like 1 out of 50 properties is probably like my average. That properties that I've seen, I was able to get at the price that I wanted. So REO is real estate owned by the bank. So if the bank ends up foreclosing on a homeowner, and they take that property back, and they have a list called a REO list, real estate owned list, that they post somewhere. You can actually, sometimes you could go on the bank's websites and find these REO lists. or you could actually call up the bank and, they'll let you know where you could find these lists. And these are foreclosed properties that you can actually negotiate with the bank with to purchase directly. So there's no real middleman. There's also, I've dealt with short sales. There's not as many short sales before, but a short sale is like when somebody is underwater on their property and someone is underwater on their property and they want to try to sell it. But if they sell it, they're not going to be able to pay the whole amount to the bank, right? So for instance, if they have a $300,000 mortgage on their property, but the property is only worth $250,000, then they're underwater. And if they try to sell it, it's called a short sale because they're $50,000 short from giving the bank back their money. So sometimes the banks allow them to sell that property, but you have to kind of go through the seller and then also through to the bank. So sometimes it's just easier to go through that and negotiate directly with the bank once a property forecloses. But the number one thing number one tool that I've used to purchase investment property is my sphere of influence, like just the people that are in my phone, right? I just send out text messages. In fact, people on this line may have gotten a text message from me lately saying like, hey, I'm looking for a property, like you'll be surprised that, one of your friends, their aunties, they're about to sell their property, or they have some property in the family that no one's been living in for years and years and years, or grandma's house, grandma passed away and, we don't know what to do with this property. You'll be surprised. I mean, I don't know how many people you have in your phones, but I probably have like a good 800, 900 numbers in my phone. And I probably go through like 20 people a day, probably about 20 people every couple of days, just going through my phone, trying to mine for real estate deals, right? So you'll be surprised the people in your network that you talk to, if you just switch the conversation from, hey, where are we going for brunch? Or what's on TV tonight or whatever, to, hey, anybody selling a property? You'll be surprised on the type of great deals you'll be able to get once you change that conversation. So go ahead, Aaron.
Where I found most of my properties was either driving for dollars. That's how I found my last one. Just riding around the neighborhoods I want to buy in and looking for the ugliest house on the best block. And one or two things I'll do. Either I'll knock on the door, see anyone living there. And if not, sometimes I ask the neighbors if they're outside. I'll ask the neighbors, hey, who live there? Would you happen to have their number? Do you know I can find them? And if that fails, I'll do something called a skip trace, guys, a skip trace. And pretty much what a skip trace is, all I got to do is just put in the address of the property, who I want to find the owner information is. And when I get the skip trace results back, I'll have their name, their phone number, their mailing address, because usually the owner of the property doesn't live there. So I can send them a letter off some skip trace results. I can give them a call. I even found, when I did the skip trace, because I wasn't able to get through to the phone, it wasn't responding back to my letters, I looked them up on Facebook and messaged them on Facebook, and I said, hey, you got this property here I'm interested in. And it's like, oh, yeah, man, I got your voicemail. I've been meaning to get back to you, because some people be on social media more than they're on their phones, unfortunately. Craigslist, I found my first property off of Craigslist. It was through a wholesaler. I really like buying properties off of wholesalers. As long as you have a good wholesaling team, and what makes a good wholesaler is one that's just not going to BS you. Because you're going to have wholesalers who are going to be like, oh, this property is worth $200,000. I'm selling it for $50,000. Come get it. And then you go there and it's complete BS. And then I have some good wholesalers where their deals are so legitimate, I'm confused why they didn't take it. But a lot of wholesalers that I know, they like to churn and burn. They don't like to get in and rehab and all that. They want to make their quick little 5, 10, 15,000, get out of there. I bought a lot of my properties through wholesalers. Wholesalers are all those people who put up those signs and say, we buy houses cash and all that stuff like that. You could do that same type of marketing. If you walk around with a shirt that says, I buy ugly, beat up houses, someone is going to say something to you. Someone is going to say it. It never fails. Every time I walk out with that shirt on, someone says something to me. They'll be like, how ugly do you buy? Or I don't know if you want this house, but I read what your shirt said. Like, you'll be surprised because family members die every day and they don't want to deal with the house, or people go through divorce. Bro, that's another place I get good deals from. Divorce attorneys. Because sometimes it's a situation where like they're going through issue with the house and they're like, you know what, we got to just sell it. Because a lot of times in the divorce proceeding, the judge is going to tell them to sell the house, split the proceeds, keep it moving. So that's the opportunity for me to jump on, because they don't want to go through the whole process of showing the house and all that. They're trying to get this divorce done ASAP. So that's one. And as you say, real estate agents, every now and then, because sometimes real estate agents, they work like wholesale people. So I can get a good deal out of a real estate agent every now and then. But sphere of influence will probably be the number one, because once you get in the game and you start networking, that's all you really need is your network.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, that's all any business owner needs really to get started, right? Like the network that they already have. Your network is your net worth, right? Another thing that I would put on here is the like probate. Like you mentioned it a little bit, like probate offices. I have a few connects that work in title, and the probate is pretty much when a family member who owns a property passes away, but they didn't do their paperwork, right? So pass that property on to their kids or whatever. So now the kids, after the family member passes away, they have to come with all of this evidence to the court to say that, you know, this was my mom and, you know, we want to take over the property, and they have a probate officer. So probate officers always get, like, I have a connect that's a probate officer who helps families with their paperwork so that they could get the property in their name. But most of the time, they want to get the property in their name so that they can sell it, right? So, so definitely probate people, probate officers are also good people to get leads on our real estate deals. All right, let's see, making an offer. Awesome. So making an offer on a property that you did all of your research, you did your market research, you're driving around, you identified the right property that you want to try to move forward with. So now it's time to make an offer. So, but even prior to making the offer though, you have to work the numbers, right? The numbers are so important. This thing is just numbers driven. So what I have here, I have like a couple of examples of ROI and for flips and capitalization rate for rental properties. So like because I was looking at so many different properties, I was probably looking at like 10 to 12 properties. I'm sorry?
This the calculator that you have?
Nah, this is actually a screenshot of my Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah,
right?
Excel. Okay.
Yeah, so this is something that I did on Excel. So I could just punch in the numbers and then it'll give me the number that I'm looking for. So I was look at all of these different properties, and so I'll have a whole list of addresses, and I'll do my research. Like, okay, this is how much the purchase price should be. So that's not the sales price that the seller was selling it for, but this is how much that I would have to purchase the property for in order for it to make sense, right? So I have like the purchase price, closing costs, the rehab price amount, because I would always visit the properties with my contractors, right? So that I could get as quickly as possible an idea of how much money is going to be that I'm going to have to put into the property. And then also I look forward when it's time to sell the property. So when it's time to sell the property, I know I have to pay a realtor sales commission. I could add in seller help. Seller help is kind of tricky. It depends on the neighborhood. Some neighborhoods, if it's a hot neighborhood, you don't have to offer buyer assistance. But some neighborhoods, like if you need, some people need more help in different areas to purchase, like closing cost help and stuff like that. Also closing costs. So I factor all of that stuff in, and I figure out what the sales price would be. So over here, I have a 510 after repair value is what the sales price is, and my total expenses coming out of this deal would be $443,650, which would yield a net profit, and that would be like my return on investment for this particular property. So so usually if you have like my mark, like if that's anywhere close to 15%, then I could try to go after that property. Anything lower than 50% for me is kind of like the margins are too slim. And with this rehab price, usually this rehab price means that it's really about $35,000, and I added another $15,000 just for the unexpected things that will come up. You always have to add that in there. There's no way around it. You always, especially if you're flipping, right? Your project is always going to go over budget. Every project goes over budget, right? Very seldom. I mean, I've never seen a project come under budget unless I put in a lot of money on top of the rehab price for unexpected. And then maybe I could come a few $1,000s under budget. But it's very important to have your numbers crunched prior to making this offer, right? Because you don't want to start negotiating with the seller, and then next thing you know, you're in a contract, and then you do the numbers afterwards, and then you figure out, hold up, I'm gonna lose money on this deal. So you wanna have a system, an efficient system that can calculate how much your output and how much your input is going to be. And that's for flips. So also you have the cap rate when you're dealing with rental properties. So the capitalization rate pretty much is like, what's going to be my return percentage for owning this property? And pretty much how that's calculated is, just say, I put a little example here for you. So if I purchase this rental property for $300,000 and the rental income is going to be $3,500 a month, which means $42,000 a year rental income, right? So to figure out the capitalization rate, you need that annual rental income, but you have to back out your annual fees so that like your annual taxes, let's say the property taxes, $2,500 a year. Your homeowner's insurance is $1,000 a year. So that you have to subtract that out of your rental income so that you have a net rental income of, where's my net rental? $38,500. So you take that $38,500 divided by their purchase price, and then you have the capitalization rate. Now, usually, if you're talking about a 12, 13 cap rate, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah,
that's really good. You can only find cap rates like that really in the hood, right?
Yeah, that's
where you have like a low buy-in rate, but high rents, like what Aaron was talking about in Philadelphia. But that usually comes with like a lot of different issues, other issues like dealing with tenants and stuff like that. But cap rates usually hover like around 7, 8, or 10 or so. And even those are good cap rates. But anything like close to like 12, 13, like those are like a high rate of return. And pretty much what that means is if your cap rate is like a 10, then that means you'll be renting your property for 10 years before you pretty much break even on the price that you paid for it. Understand? So if your cap rate is at 10, you purchase the house for $300,000, then it's going to be 10 years until you reach that $300,000. And so that property is pretty much, paying for itself. So you have your cap rate, you have your ARV, which is your after repair value. Pretty much your after repair value, like over here for Lorraine Ave, the purchase price was $350. After repair value is $510. But making an offer is very difficult. It's not difficult to make the offer, but you have to write a lot of offers, right? It's very rare that you find one property and then you make an offer on it and you're gonna get it. It doesn't necessarily work like that. You have to find multiple properties. You have to find dozens of different properties in order to bid on in order to get one. It's a numbers game, right? You have to get, for me, like I said, it's like 1 out of every 50, because I'm not just gonna put all my money into something just to get something, just to say that, oh, I'm investing in real estate. I just bought this property last week. but I'm over budget on it, or, it's not bringing the rental income. I don't want to be one of those guys that just say, I'm getting real estate, but I'm not making money in real estate, right? So that means that you have to play the numbers, right? You have to write a lot of offers, write a lot of lowball offers, and again, back to zero emotions, right? Lowballing people, that's just the name of the real estate game, right? Usually, if a property is in disrepair, needs a lot of work, then the person knows that, there's a potential that they're going to get a low offer, right? So, and that's where I come in. That's where real estate investors come in. And that person could be dealing with anything at the time, where he may put the property on the market for $100,000, and I come in with a $70,000 offer. Who knows what that guy may be dealing with? Like Aaron said, he might be going through a divorce, the death of a loved one, or any type. He might have just lost his job, any type of issue. That's the name of the game, right? It's sharks and shark bait. So especially when you're in real estate investment. So you have to take advantage. You have to write a ton of offers. And you also have to, in those offers, you have to include your contingencies. So a contingency pretty much is, yeah, I'll purchase your property, but so-and-so, right? It has to pass inspection. It has to make appraisal. I have to get the financing for it. Usually for a real estate those contingencies are cool if you're purchasing a property for yourself. But as an investor, I try to put not as many contingencies in my offer, because I'm already lowballing them, right? So it can't always be you win and they lose, right? That's not good karma anyway. But you have to find that balance where you're getting what you need out of the deal, and the seller is getting what they need out of the deal. Like if they need a fast closing, or if they need, it's like, look, I'll give you this $20,000, $30,000 below what I was selling it, but I need cash, right? Just like what Aaron said, right? With the wholesaler, it's like, okay, I'm selling it for $50,000, but there's $30,000 in my face right now. Take it or leave it. If it's cash, it's a good, they might take it, all right? So the contingencies, as an investor, you don't want to flood your offer with contingencies, maybe one or two, like on the inspection, but appraisal contingencies and financing contingencies, sometimes that will hold your offer up, because the seller doesn't necessarily want to deal with that. They want something that they feel is going to be a slam dunk, because they're already taking less than what they asked for. And if you add other type of contingencies that they can't deal with, then you're liable to miss out on that offer, on getting that property under contract. So go ahead, Aaron.
All right. So with me, first thing I'm gonna let you go. I love movies. Like, I'm literally about to start making YouTube videos on reviews of movies that I watch. And one movie that stuck out to me in particular about this slide is the movie The Banker. And if you guys haven't seen the movie The Banker, please watch it ASAP. Watch it, buy the DVD, whatever. It's a movie with Black people, Samuel L. Jackson, a couple other people. They're pretty much, they basically was in a time during segregation where buying property wasn't as easy as it is now. So for anyone that think this is hard, I want you to go watch that movie, and you could even make an offer in certain neighborhoods. They'll be like, no, I don't even care if you're willing to pay double. We're not letting any Blacks buy here. So pretty much there was a scene where he figured out how to do all this cap rate calculation in his head. Like, someone could tell him a number and he could be like, okay, well, your occupancy rate is 20%, boom, 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 da, da, da. And the guy is like, how the hell did you do that? Practice. So that was one thing that stood out to me. And his goal was always a 10% cap rate. So I learned and gained a lot from that movie, just how he was putting in a lot of offers. He was relentless. He was a shark with it. And sometimes he didn't even take no for an answer. So this is what I'm saying with making an offer. This is how I do. I kind of don't go after people who are not motivated, because me, like, when I get my brain and my heart set on something, I don't like to have to go too much back and forth, and that's usually what you'll get with someone that's not motivated. So usually people who are motivated is someone, they've been sitting on this house for a long time, like they put it on the market and it's been sitting for months, no one's picking it up, lost a job, death, someone that's motivated where they're like, you know what, normally I would not take this deal, but right now, only because you got the cash right now, I'll take it. I would typically never spend more than 65% of the active repair value towards the house and the rehab, because that's another thing. I like going in with equity. There's no property I have right now that doesn't have at least 30 to 40% equity in it. And the reason I was able to do that, because I was buying houses that were beat up. I bought a contractor and I knew exactly how much it would take to get fixed. And let's say my contractor told me $30,000. I'm just going to assume $50,000, and I'm going to factor that into my numbers. So if I'm wrong, I'll only make more money. See, you want in this business, if you're wrong, you just make more money. You don't want to be wrong and lose money. So I always overshoot it. If you tell me 30, I'm going to do 50. And if they tell me it's going to take 3 months to complete, I'll put 6 months. And one thing that I do, I know it's kind of off topic with this, but it goes into like how I make my offer. I penalize my contractors when they don't do what they say they want to do, or they go over certain time frames, because that all protects my numbers. Okay, so for every week this goes longer, you lose 5% of your draw, and it's in contract. So now I can prepare for that worst case scenario. Like, okay, if he does stay 3 months longer, the rehab cost is going to go down anyway, because I have in a contract, if you do take longer, you will be penalized for that. On the flip side, I give them a little bit more if they finish sooner. So I factor that all into my numbers. I factor in the rents, the taxes, insurance, etc. So as long as when I put in all those numbers, it comes up to 65%. So for example, if the house at the repair value is $100,000, I want to be all in at 65. Worst case scenario. Now, if it's a place that I want to live in, I will take a little less equity because I'm living in it. So I know I'm going to take care of it. I know I'm going to make sure that everything is good, etc. But when it's investment property, I need at least 35% equity. And sometimes stuff happens and it might go a little bit over that 65%, but that just makes me feel comfortable. And when you said 50%, that's freaking amazing. If you can get all in rehab, all that done at 50%, that's a home run right there. Seriously. Like you said, make a lot of offers. Just because someone is motivated doesn't mean, because some people, they might be motivated, but they don't understand what their house is worth. Some people think just because they was living in there their whole life and stuff like that, that it's worth the same amount as the house down the street that just been rehabbed. Oh, well, I seen the guy down the street sell his house. So what I do is I usually put on a little clipboard and I'll point out everything that's ugly about that house. I'm like, look, man, look, heck right here, this is going to be at least $2,000 to patch up. And I always overinflate my rehabs to the potential seller because you want to beat them up. That's how you lowball somebody. Imagine you're going to buy a car. You want to buy a car, man, got a little scratch right there. You want to take like a little $500 off that price. Like, that's what you got to see. A lot of people, they're scared to negotiate because they're scared to say something that could possibly offend somebody. And that's what was my problem when I first started. Because I have given people offers and they literally cursed me out, hung the phone up on me, told them don't come to their effing house anymore. It will happen. Because lowballing to some people is considered disrespectful. That's why right under lowball, he says 0 emotions. Let the seller be emotional. You don't be emotional. You know what I'm saying? And pretty much I try to shoot for a 10% ROI, but usually my rule of thumb is that I try to, or this is what I try to do. I try to collect at least 1% of what the house is worth a month in rent every month. So if it's a $100,000 house, I need at least $1,000 a month. So that's my rule of thumb with rentals. And then as far as acquisition, no more than 65%. And that's with rehab, taxes, all that stuff. That's my rule of thumb when making offers.
Awesome. All right, very good. We're having a lot of fun here, but I need to start. I know.
I make it shorter, but it's like I just love this so much.
This is cool. This is what we do. All right, cool. So let's see, contractors. All right, yeah, definitely contractors are a big part of real estate investing. I mean, you really can't, unless you're your own contractor, which is sort of like I know a lot of people that do their own work and stuff, but that's not me. I'm not, I'm not gonna go up there to the properties with, my drill and my hard hat and stuff and start messing around with stuff. But finding a good contractor could pretty much make or break your real estate investment career, right? How you find contractors, best way is ask for referrals, right? Ask for referrals, especially if you go see a house that you say, oh, wow, that house came out really nice. Ask who the contractor was, right? Like who's the person who worked on this house? And more than likely the homeowner who's proud of it, they'd be like, yeah, that was so-and-so. Here's his card, here's his number, tell him I sent you. Like people like referring good work or good contractors, because also if they still have a relationship with that contractor, then that contractor, if they know that they're sending them more business, then they'll give them discounted rates on whatever they want to do. And also, a lot of people use Yelp to find contractors. I'm not a big Yelp guy. I like to just, I'm a big referral guy. I want to be fair. I'm old school that way, where I like to tell me who's did this work for you, and then give me their number, and then I'll call them. I don't necessarily need to go to Yelp, or maybe I'll ask for some like referrals. Like if I'm negotiating with a contractor, maybe if I don't know them like that, if I haven't seen their work, a lot of their work, I might ask them for some referrals of some other work that they did for other people. So I could call those people and see how that experience was. Like, was the contractor on time? Did he deliver the project okay, this, that, and the other? So that's always good. You always want to do your homework on contractors. Also, you want to have more than one, right? You don't want to just rely. You want to, especially when you're looking at properties and you're new to the property and you haven't worked with the contractor before, don't just get one contractor and you go to the property with him and he gives you numbers and you're like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. Let's go ahead and do it. No, you have to have more than one estimate, right? So I would take 3 contractors. Before I met my guy, I would take 3, 4 contractors to the same place so that I could get more familiar with the numbers, right? Because maybe when I was first getting started, I didn't know how much it was going to take to rehab a place, right? So I take one contractor, he told me 20,000. I take another contractor, he may tell me 15,000. I take another contractor, he might tell me 30,000, all for the same amount of work. So it just depends. You have to kind of like have multiple estimates, and also so that you could understand the process a little bit more. And also so you could kind of get the different vision with the different contractors. Maybe one contractor say, oh, I could do something like this that you may have not even thought of, right? So definitely ask for referrals, have more than one contractor come and look at your investment deal. And also, finding contractors word of mouth. That's how I find all my contractors. In fact, one of the best contractors that I've had, I found he put a flyer on my car, right? Like 15 years ago. And I still, to this day, like I needed some plumbing work done on one of my investment properties. And I went to the car, saw some type of plumber services and stuff like that. I gave him a call. And I've been steadily using him for 15 years for like plumbing deals, right? So you just have to kind of like be aware, understand when you have somebody that's good, treat them good, right? Because contractors could come and go very quickly. There's not a whole lot of loyalty in that game. It's pretty much because you're not paying a contractor's salary, right? That contractor is working with you based off of the jobs that you have for him. So if you're not throwing him that many jobs, then he's going to be busy doing something else when you need him to do what you want him to do, right? You're going to be kind of like last on the list. Let's see. So get more than one estimate for sure, and view the properties with them, right? It's always key. Don't send your contractor to a property. I mean, sometimes, if you're in different states or your schedules are not aligned, then you're like, hey, there's this property, the lockbox is on it, go take a look at it, let me know what you think. But always try to be there with the contractor, right? And so that you guys could point things out, you could share your vision with the contractor. And also, he could share some vision with you so you guys can kind be on the same page. It's very important when you're getting into a real estate investment deal. If it's a flip, if you have any work that has to be done on that property, that you and the contractor are on the same page, because I've seen nightmares happen for people who didn't do their homework, didn't do their research on their contractor, didn't do any referrals, didn't do all the things that we're telling you guys to do. If they didn't do that stuff, then it could end up a very bad situation. You have contractors that walk out on jobs. You have contractors that don't know what they're doing. You have contractors that tell you that they're licensed and they're not. You have contractors that tell you that they're insured and they're not. So you have to make sure that you do all your due diligence when you're dealing with contractors, so that you don't end up in a bad situation, because it happens very, very often. Especially things get heated when you start going over budget. And if you don't understand, if you didn't constantly go with your contractor to that property to share, so that you guys could create the budget, first of all, then, if you're not present at the property and, the contractor is telling you oh, this thing is over budget, this thing's over budget, things get heated very, very quickly. So it's always important to make sure that you and your contractor are on the same page, that you fully vetted the contractor that you're ultimately going to use on your property, and that you do your due diligence as far as having multiple estimates, working with multiple contractors, so that you could choose the one that works best for you. Go ahead, AC.
All right, so me, this is probably the most emotional slide for me, because this is where I lost all the money that I did lose in real estate. So I'm gonna give you guys this rule of thumb: pay less, be cheap with your properties, but don't be cheap with your contractors. I'd rather you find a cheap house and pay for a great contractor than you overpay for your investment property, and now you're trying to penny pinch with contractors, because when you're cheap, you always get what you pay for. Now, once you build a relationship and you do a couple of jobs, they probably start throwing you better deals and stuff like that. But in the beginning, the good contractors, they're going to cost you a couple dollars, but they're worth it. They're worth it. I'm gonna tell you why, right? When you're dealing with those cheap contractors, they always be skitsy about doing contracts. They don't like taking credit card. Anybody who I can't pay with a credit card, I can't do business with. I'm gonna tell you why. I had a contractor fix something for me, and then literally when I went to go use it, because my dumb self didn't try using it, so I tried to use it, water started shooting everywhere and stuff like that, and he was nowhere to be found. So I called Amex and disputed that transaction, got my money right back. I can only imagine if I paid him cash, he would have been long gone. And another thing is, and this is your first time dealing with a contractor, never give them more than 25% to start the job, especially if you're supplying the material. Now, if they're supplying the material too, then it's all right, that's fair. But if they're not supplying, if you're buying the material, give them enough, figure out, okay, this job is going to be $5,000. He says it's going to take 2 weeks. Divide that up into daily draws and say, hey, every time work gets completed, you'll get paid at the end of the day, because I'm just starting to work with you. Now, if they're more credible, maybe those referred to you by experienced investors that you trust, you might not got to be that anal with that part. But if you don't know them, you just met them off of Google or you met them at Home Depot. I met contractors at Home Depot, stuff like that. That's how I pay them. And I tell them, I say, well, listen, if everything you're doing is legit, if I don't pay you, you can put a mechanics lien on my house. So you're going to get paid. So when people be all skittish and stuff like that, I stay away from them. Also, in the contract, I get a real estate lawyer or any type of attorney, draw me up a contract. It depends how much money I'm spending. If I'm doing like a $50,000, $100,000 plus rehab, I need contract. I need paperwork. And basically in that contract, I make sure I put in there that they cannot put any mechanics liens on my property. They cannot, if they're late, if they go past their deadline, they will be penalized. I just put a bunch of contingencies in there that if they don't do what they're supposed to do, I could hit them in court and do some immediate stuff. Let me think. Don't let contractors bully you. A lot of them are bullies, because you got to think about it. Most of these contractors, they didn't go to college. They didn't grow up in a good household. A lot of these people are fresh out of jail. You know what I'm saying? These are rough characters. They're either like immigrants from prison, stuff like that. So you got to understand, some of them might be a little rough. but don't take that as they don't know how to do their job. See, I used to sometimes take when my contractor would say a little personal because he was a little aggressive and he was all big and, tattoos and snakes all on his head and all that. But he did good work. He did good work. It was just a little hard just talking to him sometimes because, like, he's not used. So your contractor is not your employee. You're contracting them to do a job. So when they start feeling like you're talking to them like an employee, then they're going to get a little bit more rougher than you because they're not your employee. You're paying them to do one thing, but you can't say, okay, I want you here for 8 hours a day. It don't work that way. As long as they get their job done in the time frame that they gave you, you're good. You can't sit there and micromanage them because that's how you lose good contractors. And yes, definitely go with the estimates, but don't take the cheapest estimate just because it's the cheapest. You got to do a mixture of, okay, he's giving me a good price, plus he's giving me value, plus he's comfortable with signing a contract, plus he's comfortable with credit card payments, plus he's cool with that, boom. But if you're the cheapest one and you all like, I need cash and you don't got no office I can pull up to and find you, that's another thing. I got to be able to find you. I got to be able to find you. I don't do that. I work from home or out of my truck. No. You got to have someone I can pull up, and if I can't find you, I can find people that work for you. I don't do that. And last but not least, if they're in my neighborhood, I make them take me to projects that they're either working on and that they did. That's what my contractor now did. We hopped in this Escalade and we went to all his projects that he's working on, from deals he's building up from the ground up, from rehabs. I'm seeing how he manages his team, stuff like that. And he just made me feel really, really good. And don't go into this with that, I just want to support Black people mentality. Because this guy's Italian. I had that mentality. Oh, I just want to support Black people and da-da-da-da. They was robbing me the most. So just take that out. Take the emotions out. Don't have that. I want to support Black people, stuff like that. No, you support the person that's best for the job. And I know some of y'all might have your opinions about that, but that will make you lose money in this deal. This is not buying a smoothie or buying something from a black shop. This is your long-term retirement investment. And I'm giving it to the best person for the job.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. 100%. Like my best my best contractors, none of them are Black, to be honest. But, not to say that I haven't worked with Black contractors before and it's a good experience, but my best contractors that I work with, like most of them are like from El Salvador or Honduras, places like that. So yeah, for sure, 100%. It's all numbers. Like this is, like Aaron said, like it's not an emotional thing. You just gotta get the best person for the job, especially your contractors, because I mean that's a serious relationship between an investor and a contractor. You're entrusting this person to, you're giving them thousands of dollars for them to do a job that's potentially going to set up the foundation of your wealth building. Right, so you don't want to take that relationship lightly, and you don't want to just pick somebody, like Aaron said, just because they're cheaper than the next guy.
Or your uncle, your cousin, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah, you absolutely get what you pay for when you're dealing with contractors. So don't slip up and make a mistake of getting a bad contractor, because you'll definitely regret it. All right, so we're almost done. I think this is like the second to last slide, so we're gonna go into quick mode, right quick, lightning mode. But I think these are pretty much straightforward. The renovation, we kind of went over it already as far as the budget for your renovation. Let's just say your contractor comes in and says, you know what, to do everything that you want to do, it's going to be $50,000. Figure in your head already $70,000, right? Or 75. So that way you have enough reserves set aside so that when, not if, when your property goes over budget, then you're not taken aback, right? So you're like, oh man, what am I gonna do now? You want to factor that into your numbers from the very beginning. I can't stress that enough, right? Because it is going to happen, especially for new investors. The only people who don't go over budget are the people who put in enough extra funds to handle unexpected losses, right? So definitely you want to budget like 15 to 20% over what the contractor says the renovation cost is going to be, and be present. I like to say that to be present at the renovation sites. I might not stay there all day, but I'll visit every day, right? Even if I stop by, I show my face. I want to make sure people are working. I want to make sure progress is being made, because you don't want to like say, okay, your contractor says, yeah, this is going to be about a 3-month job, right? And then you don't want to go back after 3 months and see if the place is going to be ready, right? You want to go every day, making sure that things are getting done, making sure that progress is being made, so that you're actually part of the whole experience, right? And that also, so that you can learn. I've learned many things from my contractors, just watching them doing things that, like, okay, now I could probably just do this myself. Not everything, not like the more difficult things, but certain little things I could pick up from the contractors, like, oh, that's how you do it. A lot of these different types of things, they're not really as hard as you may think, right? There's probably a lot of different things that you could do on your own if you're that type of investor, right? I don't like to do a whole bunch of stuff. I just I pay the contractor to go in there and do it, and I let him do it. But I'm usually on the site, the job site, like just checking things out, making sure that my presence is there. Because usually when the investors is there, then that's when you see these guys. They're like ants working. They get they cut their lunch short, right? They're carrying big pieces of wood all over the place, looking like they're busy because because the boss is there, right? So just think about your job when the boss is around. That's when you're not going to be lounging around talking to so and so, like while the boss is walking around. You're going to be at your desk, you're going to be working, and that's pretty much the same type of experience you want to have on your job site. You don't want to take multiple days or weeks without your presence being there. It's good for so that you get up-to-date information from your contractors, and also you can see the progress being made on your site. So that's all I got for that.
And yeah, you pretty much covered everything. So me, since I moved to the West Coast, there's a job right now I can't currently be present at. However, when you're investing out of state, property managers is someone you can hire to check in and stop in on your job. Friends and family members. I have an uncle that literally lives about 10 minutes away from the job site. So, I send him a couple dollars here and there, give him like 20, 30 bucks. Hey, can you go drop by? Because my uncle is like really big and intimidating. So I know if he goes there, like what's going on, they gonna get to work. You know what I'm saying? Also, too, if I don't have that available, I make sure the contractor sends me as many videos and pictures as it takes to make me feel comfortable before I pay them next.
Right.
So those are little things you can do if you're not able to be present, because that's what I'm going through right now. This is gonna be my first rehab that I'm literally on a different side.
Awesome. Very good. Okay, now tenants. Now this is another tricky situation. Getting the right tenant for your property is key and could make or break your real estate investment experience. Now, I have a lot of different rental properties, Baltimore, different parts of Maryland. And one of the places that I usually get my tenants from is Craigslist. All right, Craigslist is super easy. You just post pictures on there, quick property description. People contact you, and then you're able to vet them. It's very key. Don't skip any steps doing your background checks and credit checks on tenants. Please do not. If that person comes up, unless he's coming and giving you a year worth of rent up front, then you want to do, even then, you want to have a rental application filled out and do some background checks, because who knows what this person is going to be doing inside your property. So you want to definitely have a rental application process set up. I encourage people who are renting out their properties to use a screening company instead of trying to do it themselves, because if you do it yourself, there's a lot of different things that you won't be able to do. I know there's different websites out there that says, okay, just put the information in and they'll give you a tenant score, and they'll do background checks and stuff like that. Definitely use one of those. Don't try to go and try to pull all the information yourself, where you're calling their job and you verifying their employment and you verifying their income and stuff like that. Have a professional company do the background checks. It's only like about $45, $50, $60 maybe. It's probably the best $50, $60 that you'll ever spend, because just think about it. You're letting this person into your investment property for a year. And depending on what state you live in, then that person, if they know the system and they're real tricky type of tenants, they could hold you up not paying rent, and they'll be chilling in that property for 6, 8, 10, even 12 months without paying rent. I've seen it happen multiple times in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is a very tenant-friendly city, and it's almost impossible to get rid of a tenant in less than 6 months, right? So, and that's without paying any rent. So that's zero rental income coming in. And guess what? You still got a mortgage to pay, right? So just to alleviate all of that extra, heartache and frustration, do your due diligence in the beginning. Have the tenant fill out a rental application, send that rental application to so-and-so background screening company, right? And usually it's a 24 to 48 hour turnaround, right? And then they'll give you everything that you need to know about that tenant: criminal history, credit scores, rental histories, all different, if they've been evicted before, all different types of information that you can use to make a proper decision if you want to allow this person into your property. And also, you want to have a very good lease, a strong lease that covers everything that you need it to cover, as far as who's responsible for utilities, who's responsible for maintenance, who's responsible for everything, right? Get a nice long lease. Don't use one of those 1-page, 2-page leases that you find at like Staples or something. Have like a nice, strong lease. I don't care if it's 16 pages. My lease is like 16 pages, right? That I use, because I cover I want to make sure that I'm covered in any type of situation, right? There's a lot of different leases you could find online if you don't have one. I use one that I have with my real estate company. It's like 16 pages long. It's like 50 different paragraphs of different things that they cover. And I've had to use a lot of those different clauses in that lease in order to save myself from any type of heartache with that tenant. And also, before you hand over the keys to that tenant, you want to do a walkthrough through your property, right? So you want to have like it's called a move-in sheet. And so you want to have that sheet, and you walk through with the tenant, and you go through each room, marking any type of imperfections or any type of thing like holes in walls or whatever. You want to make sure all of that stuff is noted in your notes that you hold in your folder. And once that tenant is ready to move out, you bring out that same move-in sheet, and you want to make sure that all of that stuff is in the same condition, aside from wear and tear. But if there's like an extra hole in there, and you know that hole wasn't in there before, and you could just pull out your sheet, you see, oh, there's no hole in here. You want to make sure that you have yourself covered. So definitely, you want to do your due diligence when you're screening your tenants, and you want to make sure that you do your walkthrough. So both of you guys sign that move-in checklist to make sure that you guys are both on the same page as far as the condition of the property. Yeah, Aaron.
I'm just keep this flat out simple. I do not manage my properties no more. I use a property manager for everything. There's only probably maybe one property that I had left that I manage, and that's because me and that tenant, we have a very special relationship. He respects me. He's pretty much, he lived in that property longer than I had it. Like, he's a tenant that's been passed down from investor to investor. So he takes care of that house better than I do. like, it's crazy. He really believes that's his house. But that's cool. That means he takes care of it. He pays me. I don't have no problem. However, right, this is the mistake I made. Never tell your tenant that you are the property owner. You tell them that you're the property manager. Don't ever tell them you're the owner. Because they will go find you on Facebook. They're going to find you on Instagram. If they freaking light goes off in the middle of the night, they go on your Facebook. Yeah, I'm going to report you. So I don't do that no more. And the second thing is, I don't know if this has something to do with because I'm young or how I look. When two of my tenants met me for the first time, I literally seen the respect leave their eyes. Because I don't know if they was being, well, I know what they was being managed by an older white guy before I bought the property. So when I bought it and I walked up with all these tattoos and knocked on the door and said, hey, I'm your new landlord, they just like, oh. And then it was a headache just for me to get a copy of the key because they changed a lot. So it got to the point the tenant daughter tried to stab me and all this stuff. So I just said, you know what? Because remember I told y'all I buy in the hood. So that's the stuff that you deal with. So if you're going to buy in the hood, please, please, please get a property manager. I do not want you guys going in these neighborhoods trying to collect your rent, dealing, because these people, it's crazy how so many people just don't care about not having their freedom. Like, it's crazy. So don't take that risk. Now, if it's in a better neighborhood, better people, not saying that people in different neighborhoods are better than the ones in the hood, but you guys know what I mean. Then you maybe can manage it on your own because these are working class people. They're probably RNs, paralegals, lawyers. They don't got time for all that. But if you're buying in the hood, 10% is usually what property managers charge, which is fair. I know Frantz, he does property management. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to pay the extra $100, $150. But look at what you're avoiding by paying that. You're avoiding a lot of stress, a lot of headache. A lot of times property managers, they have their own contractors that they have really good relationships with. And my contractors on the property management properties don't get paid until the job is done. Because they do so much business with their property manager, they're okay with that. And it's usually handyman type stuff. Like, oh, the window's not going up and down right, or the door is hanging off the hinge. Little stuff like that. But that was my experience, bro. I just went straight property management route. And it's maybe like one property I manage myself, but I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, you're a smart man. Definitely property managers. At my peak, I probably managed about 150 units. And that was when I was younger. And man, I had some stories for days about like dealing with tenants as a property manager. But guess what? The owner, they always got paid, they had their peace of mind. Right? And I had to go deal with all of that mess. So definitely, if you value your peace of mind, then definitely get a property manager because tenants will work you to the bone, right? Oh, management. That's what we already talked about.
Yeah, we pretty much just covered it.
Yeah, we just covered all of that. So hire a property manager right there. So yeah, you can manage on your own, but we already went over all of that. Having reliable specialists, that's contractors, but yeah, if you don't want to manage on your own, have a property manager because they have all of that stuff already laid out. And also a repair fund, right? You want to make sure you have some type of account that has some extra money in it for when the tenant has an issue. It could be anything. Aaron said the windows, it could be the HVAC, it could be the heat pump, it could be, the refrigerator, the oven, the washing machine. I mean, everything. And also, as a property manager, I've had bad experiences with home warranty companies because they take a long time, right? And the tenant usually has short patience, right? Like, in fact, I'm dealing with something right now. This tenant hasn't had, the owner has a warranty company. So now the warranty company doesn't want to replace anything. They just want to fix stuff, but they can't fix it. And they keep on trying to fix it. And it's been 2 months. This poor tenant has been going back and forth to the laundromat because her washing machine doesn't work. So, it depends with the warranty situation, but that could be a hit or miss, right? It'll save you money, but it takes much longer for the work to get done. And depending on your tenant, if your tenant is, has some patience, that's good. But if you have one of those tenants that don't have patience, they want it fixed yesterday, then a warranty company might not be the right fit. So yeah, that's property manager and management of properties. We already went through that, so let's go to the next one. Oh, that was it. That was the last one. All right, we had the Monopoly board. So you're on your way to financial freedom. So that's it, y'all, man. Hope you guys learned a little bit of something on this. We've been at it for 2 hours, over 2 hours. So I know I had to
paid more than what they paid for.
Absolutely. Yeah, I said we weren't going to get into the details, but you guys got some details. Yeah. And man, you're on your way. But one thing I could say about investing in real estate is it's definitely one of the best things that I've ever done in my life, man. Like, I work from home pretty much. The passive income that comes in from rental properties, it gives me a sense of security. It's hands-off passive income, so I don't have to be there exchanging my hours for dollars, right? I put the work in the beginning, and now it's paying me for years and years to come. And I'm not planning on selling any of those properties. I'll be able to pass those properties down to my son, my daughter, so that they can also benefit off of the work that I put in. And that's why I invest in real estate, right? I want to make sure that my family is secure. And if anything happens to me, guess what? That rental income is still going to be coming in to help support my family. And that's monopoly, right? I mean, it's all about ownership. That's what this world is pretty much built on. You have to have ownership in something. So why not own a couple of properties that's going to help you secure your legacy and your next generation. So I definitely encourage everyone to invest in real estate. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit of something. And I want to thank my boy, Aaron. Man, it's been a minute. So happy you were able to join me on this, man. You were amazing. Thanks for all the knowledge, all the tips. And yeah, man. So definitely see you on the next side, bro.
Yes, and guys, this is gonna be recorded. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have my video editor to chop this up and make this in more bite-sized chunks. So we did go in this for 2 hours. So I'm probably gonna have that, guys, probably for you the next couple of days. And then yeah, we have groups. We're on Facebook. You can inbox us, ask us questions, stuff like that. Because we went in a lot of detail, so we don't really have too much time for Q&A. But we're always on Facebook. We're always around, so it's real easy to find us. So just let us know if you have questions. Frantz, he's out of the Maryland market, Maryland, D.C., but he's very knowledgeable. Me, I'm from Philly. I invest in Philly and Delaware, but I now live on the West Coast in Vegas. So definitely reach out to us. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we went over and we don't have that much time for Q&A, but if anyone does have a question, you could go ahead, like for the next 2-3 minutes, I'll keep it open. But you could go ahead and unmute and ask a question if you do have a question. I know there's some stuff coming up on the chat. Let's see. Thank you. It's great. Very informative. Wish I knew this when I was younger. I wish I knew some of this when I was younger too. Well, I started investing in real estate when I was 20. So let's see. So no one got questions? Going once, going twice?
I have a question.
All right. Hey, Marjorie.
Where, if I want to start, what do you guys recommend? Because I see sometimes they advertise online classes for real estate license. Is that the best way to start?
No, you don't need a real estate license to invest in real estate, not in my opinion. You don't need real estate, if you're trying to sell real estate to other people, then yeah, you can get your real estate license, but it's not necessary if you want to invest in real estate. Okay. There's like we went over a few slides ago, there's a lot of different ways you can identify properties, like through foreclosures, auction sites, your sphere of influence, calling different people. Like if you want to invest in real estate, first you identify what type of investment you want to have. Is it a single unit, a multi-unit, a flip, a rental property? And once you determine that, then you could like, okay, let me go look for it. You don't necessarily, you could hire a real estate agent to go find a property for you, or you could look for it on your own, right? And, you know, call up some friends if they know anybody that's looking to sell some real estate properties, whatever. So that's probably the best advice. But you definitely don't need to get your real estate license. So that's a lot of time and effort and you gotta pass tests and stuff like that, just to get some rental properties when you don't necessarily need to. So no, I want to advise. I mean, if all you want to do is invest in real estate, then you don't need your real estate license.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. All this was very informative, guys. I would appreciate it. And I do want to pass this along to my daughter. So maybe you guys may want to start something for teenagers, and especially when you want to learn about investing. I think it would be nice if they can start at a younger age, so they could know exactly what they need to do when they're getting a bit older.
Absolutely, 100%. It's definitely a great knowledge to have, you know, growing up. All right, so if anyone else has a question, you could ask your question real quick. If not, we're gonna go ahead and close this out. This was recorded, so I'm gonna send out the recording to everybody who RSVP'd, and then I'll also send out the links to the last 2 videos that I did for first-time home buyers and before you sell your home. And I think that's it.
All right, guys, it's been fun. Talk to you guys soon. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Right,
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, y'all. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Good night. Bye-bye.